Hey everyone, today's introduction will be a short one as I was attending Shoptalk Europe this week, where I had tons of great conversations with and insights from e-commerce experts. And I also had the opportunity to connect with a few of them and many interesting people that I'd like to bring here to the show in the coming episodes. In today's episode, we'll talk to Daneel Steinmann from Zees. Zees is a company that helps sellers have a global reach by providing DDP shipping from your headquarters to fulfillment centers around the globe. They help with all the obstacles you may find with compliance and customs. I had a great chat with Daneel. I hope you enjoy it too. Please consider subscribing to our channel and sharing with your friends. My name is Rafael Berti, and this is the Intrepid Sellers. Hey everyone, thank you for joining us once again. And today I have Daneel. Daneel, thank you for joining us. And I actually would like to start, and that's how we kick off the podcast, just by asking who you are, introducing yourself, and what do you do?
Great. Thanks, Rafael, for having me. Hopefully we can entertain the listeners today and add some great value. As you mentioned, name's Daneel Steinmann. I'm born and raised here of South Africa. I was one of the initial 4 people that helped start Zees as we've grown into a multinational company, and I'm currently heading up my own branch and to grow the business even further.
Fantastic, man. So how did the company start? What's the story?
Okay, so ironically, we are part of a larger group of companies called the VAD IT Group. And within that, my role was I was joining one of the tech companies where we do import and compliance and logistics for big tech companies. So our clients have always been Microsoft, Google, ironically Amazon themselves, helping them build their data centers across the world. Similarly, there's a division that does this in the pharma space for clients such as Pfizer, etc. And then when I joined, I was very excited to get into the tech business. But I was pulled in with an initial group of people to look at a proposal of starting out an import compliance logistic business in the e-commerce space. And this is usually where people that's in the space start to grin. But we thought that, it's such a small space and we're not sure if there's a real business to be made in the e-commerce space. Lo and behold, a year and a half later, Zees grown to over 70 people, assisting sellers worldwide grow their businesses by doing, the import compliance and logistics for them.
All right, cool, man. But just hang on a minute. The company is based in Johannesburg, right, in South Africa. But you guys, you're doing it on a global scale. Is that it? So you're helping, if I understood correctly, the Amazon sellers, and you're doing this on a global scale. How did that happen? I mean, you went all the way from South Africa to pretty much everywhere. And where are you serving? Which countries are you serving?
Yeah, so quite a fully loaded question, but I'll start off our head operations are based in South Africa, but we've got within the global group company, we've got offices about in 50 countries worldwide. What is actually quite fascinating is South Africa is not a bad place to build an international business because we are very central on time zones. So, in the mornings we can work with the Asian clients and at night we can work with Americans, and in the middle we service Europe and the UK. I suppose the problem is there's no rest for the wicked.
There's a 24/7 company. I can
Yes,
tell.
but your second part of the question, we are truly a global company and with clients from across the globe and on every time zone that you can think of.
Yeah. So which countries are you serving? It's US, Europe, Japan,
Yeah.
Singapore.
So in the e-commerce space, we service any market where Amazon have a presence. That's where most of our clients are looking to go, even our Shopify or other big D2C brands. But a big portion of our clients are Amazon sellers that's looking to grow from the US into new markets. So a good case study is usually a US client that's going into Germany, the UK, which is the second and third biggest market. And then we have sellers that's more experienced that's going into Japan, Australia, Canada, Singapore, and etc.
Okay, so let me try to understand a little bit about what you guys are doing. So you have a presence in all these countries, and you would be able to be the importer of record for the sellers whenever they want to expand abroad, so they can send the goods through you, and you would be the importer. And what happens then? I mean, I understood that you help with all the compliance, everything that is needed for the goods to arrive in the country, um, possibly a VAT registration or accounting if required. But then, what are you the ones doing, like the fulfillment to the customers, or are you preparing are you doing the FBA preparation for Amazon sellers to send it to the Amazon warehouses? How does that work exactly?
Okay, so I'm going to give you a kind of a rundown of our different services, but if I had to keep it with one sentence, is Z's mission is to simplify and save you cost and time with your supply chain, being it whatever market in the world you want to enter. So that's sort of the elevator pitch. From there, I think there's four main sort of services that we offer that revolutionizes the way people can interact with one point of contact for their global expansion. So we do VAT registration into any country worldwide. We help you with your product compliance, making sure your goods are legal for import and legal for sale. As you're going into new markets, there's a lot of red tape involved, and we take care of that sort of stress that sellers experience. We save you cost on your logistics and freight. Make sure that you've got, while we're doing all of your compliance and your registration, that you've got one point of contact that picks up the good from the place where you're manufacturing to the final destination. We'll do a turnkey sort of solution for the logistics. The catch-22 is when you enter new markets, there's a lot of product import compliance work to be done. We act as your import of record, which means we enable you to import into countries where you don't have a physical presence, which is a big barrier of entry for sellers that don't have a physical presence, as I mentioned, in that country. We assign a broker. We make sure all of the customs documents are consigned in a way so you can reclaim your VAT, reclaim anything related to the import, and we guarantee you sort of a first times customs clearance into any markets. And yeah, that is sort of our turnkey solution. In terms of fulfillment, we have partners in the 3PL space. Actually, my previous role was heading up the business development side of partners. So we've got a network of over 100 partners across the globe that if we can't do a service, we'll make sure to put you in touch with someone that can. And in that, you have basically, as I've mentioned, one person with a warm accent here from South Africa that is handling your entire global expansion and logistics.
Right. You actually mentioned something very important. You said the turnkey solution. So I'm just thinking, what is the advantage that you're selling here, or that you presented to your clients? And am I correct to say that what you're doing is you're taking away all the headache and all the hustle of having to find partners and people to move your goods across the Atlantic or whatever, whenever you are? Is that basically what you're saying?
Yes, I think there's two type of sellers that's in desperate need of our service. It's people that
Hmm.
are currently selling into different markets worldwide, but they have, 8 or 9 different people they're speaking to. They're wasting a lot of times to fight with customs, and we are there to streamline and simplify their solution. And secondly, it's sellers that's sitting in their market that gained experience as a seller and have grown their brand to a place where they are irresponsible by not looking at diversifying into new markets. With new markets, it's more opportunities, it's more customers that Amazon is bringing to your product. And personally, that's how you build an international brand.
Hmm. But when we talk about sellers, there are different kinds of sellers on Amazon. We
Yes, yeah.
have the guys who, I don't know, they just try to make some quick bucks, or they basically get a bargain somewhere and they try to resell the products. But we also have, well, lately we have had a lot of private labels on the rise, especially sourcing products from China and then bringing to Amazon. We also now have seen a lot of Chinese sellers taking over, the Amazon space in the US mainly, but also here in Europe we can see a lot of Chinese sellers as well. And but then there's also the manufacturers. There's also a growing demand from the brand owners who the manufacturers and sometimes they have like a really cool product, and then they want to go into the D2C space, selling directly to the consumers. Who exactly are you serving? What type of sellers would be using your service then?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Just touching on resellers first, we do have some of our best clients that are resellers, but I think with anything in the D2C brand space, it's all about margin. I think if you are struggling to make ends meet within a market, there is additional cost in going into new markets, and I think people need to be upfront with that. And if your product can't absorb that, that is something that's unfortunate. And there's obviously a lot of regulation involved with certain resellers in countries where they're limited to a country. Like let's say you're reselling a certain brand, you only have the rights to sell in the USA. So that's, if you look at the brand registry perspective, that's also something you need to take into consideration. Am I allowed? Can I take this international? So it kind of leaves us to where our sweet spot is, and this is brands. It's brands that's growing in the private label sphere, that's growing rapidly, and they want to diversify. It's brands that have got winning SKUs in the market, and now give that same winning product to people across the globe that are just as interested and hungry for your great product. In the D2C space with our Shopify and website owners, which we also see is there's an unbelievable opportunity for big brands that are only fulfilling from the USA, that offer international freight, but it's from the USA. I think I will always tell brands they need to wake up and realize that with Amazon, the consumerism has changed. People order and they want it now. They don't want it in 5-6 days time, and they don't want to pay $30 delivery for it. So for brands that's selling in the US, that's international client base, it's a no-brainer to look at fulfilling from 3PLs and help us get you there into the biggest markets such as the UK and Germany for your brand. So those are sort of the clients I think we are adding the most value to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. And so talking about the US sellers and specifically, are they mostly interested in I would say, the UK market?
So
Where exactly do you see the demand, and which markets and where the sellers are mostly interested?
So quite a few sellers in the US. Your next sort of natural progression is going into Canada because it's close by. You can fulfill from the US. Once again, you do unfortunately have a much longer waiting period, and you miss out on prime customers by fulfilling directly from the USA. But our biggest kind of people we've seen is people that are going into the UK and Germany. It's the second and third largest market in the world, and it depends on your product. Obviously, if it's calendars in the US, you need to look at doing a German-based calendar rather than the UK. So in that sense, I think there's a lot of products that have a big overlap with the UK, but there's also a lot of this more generic products where brands are being built in the Amazon and e-commerce space, that Germany is an unbelievable market, because with Germany, you can also fulfill across the whole Europe. So Germany, but for sometimes it's even good to go directly into France and fulfill from there. So those are the options I think sellers are doing. As they grow, the next sort of progression is Japan, Australia, Singapore, and you're not expecting to make the same money in those markets than the US. But if you start counting up the parts of these markets, you can actually look at doubling your business by just.
Yeah, we actually have seen that happening, because it's no doubt that the US as a market is Amazon is really a really big thing there,
Yeah.
and if you're successful there, you pretty much can go anywhere else. But the accurate sales of if you add everything that you're selling everywhere else worldwide, if you expand to other Amazon marketplaces, you can pretty much double your revenue.
Yeah.
And it's pretty sizable. You mentioned Germany. Germany's especially after Brexit, we have seen a massive increase of sellers there. Also, the count for products offered also nearly, I think, is 1/3 up. So it's a very interesting point you made there. But there's one thing I wanted to ask you, because during my preparation for this conversation here, actually I've seen a video of you, And I saw you asking this question. So now I want to ask this question to you,
great.
see what you answer.
Good.
But the question is very simple. You ask, what's your take on businesses growing to new markets?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I suppose I can give you quite a few different takes, but I think it's in one word. It's necessary to consider. I think go look and have a call with an expert or someone that specializes in global expansions like myself or anyone out there. Have the conversation to hear where your business is and start planning for it. You don't have to start selling there tomorrow. With that registration kind of being the first hurdle, it's a long process. So for me, it's always telling sellers, global expansion is about to kick off. I really think that international selling is not nearly as known and as localized as it's going to be in a few years. I think people don't realize that a lot of times they don't even see their own products in the USA. So there's not a big difference if you can just put those products into Germany and the UK and Japan. You're still not seeing your products. They're just getting delivered to a different market and you're getting your goods to consumers worldwide. I think people need to make that shift. It's almost like a new technology that you need to kind of look at using. And Z is sort of pivotal in helping sellers get that grip that and helping them understand the opportunity.
Right. Is there like a moment then that a seller should consider then? Let's say if they have not fully grown on their local market, do you think it would be recommended that they start somewhere else?
I think focus is a term that I sometimes also struggle with, like running my own brand, helping advocate for international expansion. I sometimes also need to kind of be like, where's my focus? So I think if you aren't winning in your market yet, when you think there's a bit more to do in that market and your PPC costs, for instance, on words aren't skyrocketing, you're able to kind of grow rapidly in the market. Don't underestimate how much you can make only in the USA. I mean, if you go look at the top 2,500 sellers, they are making millions of dollars by being in the USA. But I think the moment you want to sort of look at diversifying, when Chinese are attacking your listing regularly, when you are unsure, or even just when you've got that hunger to have more, it's a good time to look at it and just have the goal. Rather sooner than later when your listing's going downwards, you have stock issues and people are blocking it, and you are completely dependent on that one listing.
Hmm. Do you do any sort of control on the account for for the inventory? Let's say if you have like some kind of products that they have a very speedy sales velocity, do you offer any sort of control in terms of making predictions of how much more you need to send over, or is this relegated completely to the seller?
So currently, we try not to mess in with their business and how they should run it. And I think entrepreneurs are very, very, territorial about how they run their business. We're there to simplify their supply chain. What we do offer is we offer exceptional air freight rates as well. So for sellers that have quick turnaround time and products that's not as heavy, it's always great to look at air freight. It also gives you a lot more flexibility in terms of booking your freight, the delivery dates. I think we all know what nightmares China has at the moment for sellers in terms of supply chain and getting your goods out there via large volume freight. So I'd suggest if you're looking for flexibility and your product does offer the opportunity to go via air, it's a very more dynamic business that you can run.
Yeah, just to be clear, your business has nothing to do with drop shipping, right? You
No.
wouldn't. It's not something you would touch.
Look, if sellers can afford it, yes, great. But I think also dropshipping as a term is vaguely misinterpreted, because there's like dropshipping like directly from China, which a lot of people do, which I don't is not what we're doing. But
Mhm.
if you're dropshipping on a more larger scale from a specific country and you have fulfillment from there, yes. But I think the terminology dropshipping, as you mentioned, no, we don't do.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Um, I want to do a little bit of a devil's advocate here. Let's say if I'm a seller and I don't want to, I want to cut corners. I don't want
Yeah.
to use someone like you. What kind of troubles do you think I can get into?
So
What are
look,
the most common
since you're playing devil's
difficulties?
advocate, let me also, because I do think it's very easy to only sell your service. there is ways of doing it without us. Let's put it that way. There is ways where you can look at trying to work with a freight forwarder, get someone to clear within country, do some of the product research yourself. It's possible. There is people that's selling across the globe that are doing it. I think you need to ask yourself what time and what risk, what value do you put on that? Because we take all of the risk and we save you a shitload of time. And if that are two things that's important to you, consider us. If you don't consider your time of importance and you aren't scared of that risk or something clearing, have it a go yourself. Come to us then when you're stuck with a shipment and we'll clear it for you, and hopefully you won't make the mistake again. But yes, it is possible. And if there's people that want to find the loopholes, go for it, and let's see if you come back to us in 6 months' time.
Fair enough. Well, here in Europe, one of the talk that we have here is obviously Brexit.
Yes.
And there was a lot of interest in the UK market, and that obviously has dropped quite significantly.
Don't worry.
Since Brexit happened. And but there are still sellers. UK is still a very good market, I'd say, for having an Amazon business. Is this something you guys can also help with? Can you help like EU sellers between, to go across UK as well, and vice versa?
Yes, I think that's a good point, and that might just reiterate an answer said earlier, but just rephrase it. Just as we help people expand to Europe, we help you expand into the US. It's just I think in all essence, there's a lot less import compliance into the US than into Europe. But in terms of your products and your freight solutions, etc., we do have quite a few clients still using us into the US. And if you're selling in Germany, etc., we can get you in the US. So just to clarify that for the audience, your question regarding UK, EU, that's probably one of our best lanes that we service, vice versa. But I think I'm going to be clear, because I think a lot of listeners that are based in the EU or UK that stop selling in the different market. What I've experienced when I was in London for a few weeks working with sellers there and at conferences speaking, the real problem, Raphael, is they don't conceptualize that Brexit means that it is a complete customs nightmare if you just try and do it the old way. When people in Germany or in the UK want to use us into Singapore, Japan, or the US, they're very much happy to hear what we're saying, all of the work that needs to be done. But the moment you say EU to UK or vice versa, people get almost like shut down, because they still believe it's supposed to be as easy as it is. And my kind of task to them is like, wake up and smell the air. It's gone. That it is never going to be as easy. It's seeing that as a different continent or a country on its own. So we do help them, which is also great. Is we've got road freight between the UK and EU, which makes the freight much less expensive. I mean, probably the longest thread Amazon has ever seen is the post-Brexit threads on people that were selling, vice versa. They was trying to get a hold of seller support and hearing how to do it. So when we do this for our clients, for me, it's just important to make sure before we go ahead and how we work to be, listen, you need to understand that this is a complete new ball game. And if you treat it differently, your goods are going to get stuck at customs, guaranteed. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It does. In fact, it's very interesting that you say that, because we actually have had many similar conversations with our clients as well, and it's very interesting how it's like people still haven't clicked what Brexit actually means when you're selling it, and then when they go through all the troubles, like, my gosh, it's taking so long. Yes, there's a lot of things that you need to go through, a lot of paperwork that this wasn't there before. But I wanted to ask you something. What you mentioned freight forwarders a few times, and I just wanted to understand, what's the difference between Zees and a freight forwarder then?
Great, Raphael. Well, it makes it easier for the clients on the call. But I think what we do differently is we help them. We work with freight forwarders. So for us, we help the freight forwarders get their goods cleared into countries. Freight forwarders only do the logistics. They don't help you with the import compliance. They don't assign brokers. They don't clear customs. They don't do the customs documents in a way that you can reclaim your import VAT. And if you don't understand that, like freight forwarders can get your goods stuck. That's we work with them to simplify the process for you.
Mm-hmm. And how is that working with, for you guys in terms of, we have seen the prices of containers skyrocketing, and I'm assuming that you guys also have seen a massive growth during the pandemic, but we seem to be going to a slope down in the economy right now with a lot of inflation going on everywhere, but some of the prices are still very high. How do you see this coming in, performing the next months or maybe years?
Yeah, I think just freight has quadrupled. Like container fees are skyrocketing, but I think with anything in an economy, I think it will drop again. I think that I've heard of a lot of new sort of containers being manufactured. I think whenever there's an over demand in the supply, time is probably the only factor this will sort this out. So when these prices will decrease, I have no idea. I think people predicted 2022 to start off better, and it's not been. I think all of the lockdowns happening in Shanghai, etc., has made things worse. So I think it has made sellers much more resilient, because a lot of times your freight cost is double your product cost. So I think sellers have found a way to brand and build brands on Amazon and on Shopify that whenever these costs do come down, and I can't really promise when, because I think no one really knows. And if someone knows, please put me in contact with them. But when they do come down, people will see an increase in margins, and I think e-commerce will even boom more because there's more demand then that comes in. But I can't predict when. But it is a very tough situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just wondering to, like to understand how this would affect your business, because you're depending on the freight forwarders as well, and then obviously those costs you're going to be passing on to your clients. Maybe Z has an interest on acquiring one of these freight forwarders at some point. Who knows?
So look, we work so closely with them and our couriers that we get bulk discounted rates already. So that's a cost saver that we give onto our clients when they use us. So for us, we've developed ways of dealing with different people in the space, in the logistics space, to make sure we get the best prices and the quickest turnaround time for our clients. So for us, I don't think it's something we'll acquire. I think in the 3PL space and then helping people with their goods, I think there's a lot of demand there. And then also on the product compliance side, there's a lot of things that we advise clients that hopefully is services that we can also perform. But I think, to summarize, we do all of the shitty work so you can focus on building your brand.
Okay, that's good to know. And one thing that I was thinking is, because we talked a lot about Amazon and Amazon sellers,
Yes.
and to me that makes sense, especially if you want to go into a new market. I like to say that Amazon is the shortest way for you to reach your customers when you enter a new market, because of the weight that Amazon has already in the local market as a brand, But we also have seen cross-border e-commerce. And what I mean by cross-border is it's not simply sending goods. You set up a website, for instance, in another language, and then you send the products directly from your country to the customer. But then it's slowly also progressing into a local setup.
Yes.
So what we have seen is people that started a small operation in the US, and then lately they actually have a fully dedicated website to the US market, and then they obviously set up a business there. They have a warehouse location, so they start sending like a massive amount of goods to supply that operation. Is this so? I mean, obviously, this we would expect. This is mostly bigger brands, but is this some kind of operation that you could support as well? So let's leave aside Amazon. Let's say someone who only would like to dedicate, like, let's say Shopify stores on different markets. Is this something that Z can help with? Do you have any case like that?
Yeah. So I think, just getting to your answer, I think a lot of people think the natural progression would be to use us, and then to a point that when they are big enough to actually have a physical presence in that country so that we don't have to act as the importer anymore. The problem with that is by acting like building an entity in a country and maintaining a physical presence there is more than just documentation and sort of having a physical people working there with employed. It's the nightmare of for 7 years having audit trails, making sure that the way you've declared to customs, the way you've been importing is up to scratch, because as importer of record, as doing the import compliance for up to 7 years, customs can come after you with massive fines if you've done things incorrectly. So a lot of times, and that's why in the tech space we've grown so rapidly to a team of over 400 people, is a lot of times it makes more sense to outsource your entire supply chain, and that Zees does the import for you, as we only take a percentage of the value being imported, and that the cost benefit from that is actually more than trying to maintain your own entity. But yes, I often hear people ask, can you help me register my own entity? That's not something we do. We maintain our ours so that we can import on your behalf. But there is people, and there is probably a place where you've grown that big that maintaining your own entity is the better option. But I think there's a lot of thousands of people that's not in that position that Zees is a fit for.
Mm-hmm. So I can say that you've been working partnerships as well.
Yes.
To get the people on board that can help with whatever is missing that Zees cannot do. I assume it's similar to us. It's similar to what we're doing as well.
Look, it's the Amazon market and the whole e-commerce space. It's when we started, I was so confused how big it is and who's the who's, and now that I've met the who's, and we're chatting on a regular basis, I've realized that the community is actually so tight and so small. So it's so important to have an open hand mentality when working with other service providers and partners, because as long as you can add value to your client base, great. And I think that's where everyone is trying to strive towards. If you can't do something, let's put you in touch with someone that can, because it's value from both sides is being unlocked.
Yeah. How long has Zees has been around?
So I think that's why a lot of people haven't heard of us. We've been around for about a year and a half now. So, we've grown rapidly in the space, and I am quite proud to say that as a presence and an authority figure, we are up there with some of the top brands if it comes to the quality of our service. But we new in the space, although in the import and compliance space, we've been around for 10 years, as I said, in the different verticals.
Mm-hmm. And you've grown by how much? You were like just a few people, and then you went to how many are you now?
Well, we actually acquired a VAT company, so within that, it's difficult to give a full estimate. But when we started, we were about a team of 5, and now at least over 70 full-time employees working here from our Melrose Arch offices.
In a year and a half time.
Yes,
that's amazing.
It shows you the hunger there is in the space for what we're doing. So I think that's a good testament to what we're doing, and it also reminds clients of just how much people it takes to coordinate your entire supply chain, which I sometimes try and remember people, because just as you get like kind of turnkey or full suite agencies that does everything of your brand, we are an agency in a sense for your back end and getting your goods across the globe.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm aware that you are a seller yourself, right? I mean, you have sold stuff before as well, so you have some experience online.
Yeah, I think it's sorry, just on that, LinkedIn is a bit of a it's a platform to kind of it's a humble platform, but you can't hide anything you're doing. So I started a D2C Shopify brand about 3 years ago in South Africa. So when I joined, I ironically thought that my expertise are going to move a bit outside of e-commerce. So I've got tech and e-com experience. But as I say with entrepreneurs, you kind of tend to go where the opportunity is. And yeah, so it's been a very good learning curve of, for myself being a seller here in South Africa and growing a local brand here with kind of the knowledge I've gained on the e-commerce side and more servicing clients. So it's been a very, very fun journey.
Yeah, so I'd like to take this opportunity because I it's the first time that I speak. I think it's the first time I speak to someone who is active in the e-commerce space in Africa, anywhere in Africa.
There's no lions walking on the streets here, Raphael. I don't know if that's, but
it's just amazing because we never hear anything. Being in Europe, we talk about different countries, but we talk Europe mostly. And sometimes when they want to go abroad, is US or somewhere in Asia, but nobody talks about Africa. So I wanted to take this opportunity and ask you a little bit about how's the I mean, do you know other entrepreneurs in South Africa? They also have running e-commerce businesses, and they're doing really
Yes.
well with that, or even somewhere in other African countries.
Yeah.
Is there anything what can you tell us about the e-commerce environment there?
So I think I've recently traveled a lot for work. I'm actually heading now to New York, and I came back from London and Vegas to advocate for expansion. And my the consumerism in the UK and the US and the way people consume is it's on a new level. It's something that we don't
Mm,
really like grasp here in South Africa. I think just if you go look at the disposable income a lot of Africans and South Africans have, it's so much less um, than UK and US type of people. So you're looking at a country where e-commerce isn't booming as much as it can because people's kind of disposable income isn't nearly as high. I think something that's interesting here in South Africa, even top brands like 3 to 5 days delivery is exceptional. Like you don't really get anything close to prime here in South Africa. We actually don't have a marketplace on Amazon here. So Amazon, I know there's been rumors that they're coming. So we're waiting for you. I'm happy to have a chat with them. But we have a marketplace called Take a Lot that is owned by the biggest listed company here in South Africa, and they like the Amazon of South Africa. For me, it's funny interacting a lot with Amazon now, just how little brand recognition there is for Amazon for Take a Lot sellers. So Amazon's been doing much better in creating a brand sort of on the marketplace where it's more just kind of product images and millions of them on Take a Lot. But they're not doing bad. But yeah, that's sort of the current stance here in South Africa. I know two booming e-commerce industries are Kenya, ironically, and Nigeria. Those are the two markets that I know. My brother runs a small agency this side. I know those are ones that there's also been good growth. But I think what is interesting in the South African market is because we don't have Amazon, because the competition is so much less, there's strong brands growing on their own D2C website that when they expand into the UK, etc., they can make one hell of a mess and really do well. Because I think there's in South Africa, there's brands that's like I'll give you an example: Freedom of Movement and Burnt. I know the owners of those brands both well, but Freedom of Movement, they do leather like products mainly, and they're building a clothing brand high end. And the way people are consuming it here is unbelievable. And we have so much expats in the UK and Europe that it's a high quality product that will do well there. Same with there's a fitness brand called Burn Studios that do leggings and like gym tights, etc. And they are probably, if not more, equally respected and same priced as Nike and Adidas. So it's funny because there's a very much a passion here to support local brands because of our kind of isolation from the rest of the world. So, we can't compete on prices with Shein and other brands, but there's a very much a proudness of supporting local brands and buying brands that's manufactured locally in South Africa. So yeah, that's sort of an interesting take on it.
that's very interesting to hear. Am I right to assume that the fashion category would be the most popular category in
Yes,
e-commerce?
yes,
Are there any
definitely
other
in South
categories
Africa.
that
Yeah. But I
it
think
is? Yeah.
that's where and let's take my word on it. But that's why I think like pet products and other like industries that's thriving in the e-commerce space, like they're soon to follow. So it's something that's lagging here, but give it a few years, it can do well. But I think the consumerism is so much less than the rest of the world. So yeah,
How about cosmetics? How about other categories? The largest category in the US, I could say, is supplements. But I don't think is there anything close in South Africa? Would it
yeah. So
is
there's
there
I think
any
there's a
interest in supplements at all?
Yes. So there's a big billion plus brand called USN. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're in the UK. They're actually bigger now in the UK than they are in South Africa, but they started here. So there's quite like one or two local brands here. But in the cosmetics and that industry, it's a lot of it is still imported brand, like brands that you see on TV, etc. That sort of running the retail side of things.
Wow, amazing. Daneel, it's been an honor to have you in the show. I
Great.
really enjoyed this conversation. I think our time is up now. And I hope you can come back in some time. You can tell us more about the Z taking global expansion for world domination.
Yeah, look, we want our clients to world dominate, Rafael, but I agree with you. And yeah, and like I'll actually give you my email address if people want to personally contact me. I love having conversations with anyone that wants advice. So it's DANEELSTE@z.co. You can maybe put it in the show notes, or they can just go on our website and inquire there. But love to have any chat with someone that's interested. And yeah, thanks, Rafael. I've loved the convo. It's been great. And yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Appreciate, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Raf. Cheers.